I have undertaken learning to PK in old school RuneScape, while also undertaking the documentation of this process, having just PK'd in 1,000 free-to-play fights, a milestone that I limp towards, with the fights themselves taking place over 3 accounts over a 20-month period. Yes, progress was made, and many secrets of pking were revealed to me, but I have been left with the question, did I really give free-to-play PK learning its justice? Focus, dedication, and discipline. Fundamental characteristics when one is looking to grow. Confiding, the apex of my time in free-to-play was 10 continuous days of PKing. Some may laugh, others their heads falling in solitude, knowing each day they as well failed to do the thing they need to do. Regardless, you, my peers, only at times are a means to measure progress. Now character, that falls solely on me. Having coined my previous 1,000 fight progress being done so as a hobbyist PKer, but now in the forming of a habitual one. This video highlighting the changes that I adopted to develop consistency with PKing, then reviewing how this translated into my fights and fight outcomes in the form of a data review. Closing off with some lessons learned that are making me and can make you into a better PKer. So let me tell you a story of my time PKing. And just to tidy up from where I have left off in my Learning to PK series, now PKing on 3 accounts was done to satisfy personal questions, that being the time to create a free-to-play peer from scratch, where I then built one peer traditionally in free-to-play, and the other being a prodded peer built in pay-to-play, then running numerous comparisons between the 2 accounts. And a lot of time was invested into this whole process. Now discoveries were made, and for those curious, the findings can be found in my previous videos. But now having come to a place of satisfaction, and moving forward, I will be axing off 2 of my accounts and PKing solely on my prodded peer, objectively being the strongest account of the 3. Also, the account will no longer be from scratch. Having surplus GP on my main account, I view time spent money making on the peer as time taken away from PKing. Previously, I would also trade over PK gear and supplies, this time though, trading a lump sum of 5 million GP for the peer to spend by discretion, as the plan is to PK on one account with one source of funding, making a tidier process to collect data. Noting I did run a deficit over my previous 1,000 fights, and if needed, further lump sum funding will be provided. And I do say if, as I was trending towards more kills than deaths in my final fights, and I am hopeful to have passed a tipping point where my PKing covers costs and even becomes profitable. So let's begin with this development of consistency, because when I look back over my previous 1,000 free-to-play fights, the one thing I wish I had done was been more consistent with my PKing. Sharing again, the apex of my consistency was 10 continuous days of PKing, with the majority of fights taking place sporadically with large breaks of time between them. And as I will likely allude to in the title, going from someone who PK'd 10 continuous days to then 21, that personally is significant improvement, with my consistency developing when I turned PKing into a habit. Now, I am no guru on the topic of habits, nor will I claim to be one. Rather, I will share what I am aware of, my thoughts around this, and how my application has led to success, with a habit being a regular tendency or practice. And when something is done habitual, it is then done constantly or as a habit. With us people being creatures of habit, to the point of 40% of our daily activities performed each day are done in almost the same situation, with the exact time for a habit to form falling into a range and more a subject of discussion, with my point being, myself and you watching can attest at some point becoming aware of a bad habit you wanted to break or a good habit you wish to develop. Goals are good here, as they can be broken down into the required actions, with a habit being the repeated action of an activity, herein lying the power that can come from your habits. So I made a simple goal, to PK each day for as many continuous days as I could. And after meticulously keeping track of my PKing to date, I have become rather aware of my shortfalls. Particularly, escape is my copium, and after a long day, I wish nothing more to AFK on RuneScape. So I tried implementing a technique known as habit stacking, where you take a habit you wish to implement and do it after an existing one, leading to a higher success rate of completion. Where before, I would PK in my evenings after dinner, a time of day with much competing interest, such as my desire to AFK or time spent with my family and girlfriend no more, leading to inconsistent stretches of PKing. So I simply tried moving the time of day in which I PK'd, already being rutted into a routine of the time I eat lunch, followed by a quick stretch. I stacked PKing onto this. A small change, resulting in 21 days of continuous PKing to occur. A streak broken when the Christmas break hit, but resuming in the new year at a success rate of 5 to 6 days of PKing per week. And I bring this topic up for twofold reasons. Firstly, as someone who struggled to PK consistently over a 20-month period, I can imagine others have possibly hit a similar roadblock when learning to PK. And the simple change that I made with habit stacking, I hope can bring similar success to others. And further to the point, this technique can be applied outside of the game. Again, I can share having successes in the developing of desired habits. So I leave it to you as food for thought, as we will continue with a data-driven review of the fights themselves that took place over those 3 weeks. So entering into this fresh 1000 fight bracket, I used my 5 million starting GP to purchase 20 PK sets with additional gear and supplies, still having a few million surplus GP. And for those saying you only buy additional sets if you expect to die, well, yes, as I'm just trending towards more kills than deaths, but not at a rate for my sets to replenish themselves. If this is also a first of my videos for you, then note the data I keep track of is my number of fights, their outcomes, time played, and associated costs. Metrics I would like to know to weigh if I wanted to learn to PK myself, and then further to that as a gauge to measure progression. With fights themselves having 3 outcomes, that being a kill, a death, or a player running. And what I will do is be displaying just the kills and deaths that took place each day over the 3 weeks, then draw your attention to key days, followed by a progressional review. Definitely having some poor performance days, with deaths outnumbering kills. And at this stage of my learning, I consider flatline days of going even also to be in this poor performing category. But in respect to this, I had some good days of PKing, getting 2 to even 10 times more kills than deaths. These days themselves taking place in weeks 2 and 3, and I attribute these outcomes to my lessons learned being applied together, with time played ranging from a single 5-minute day to over 2 hours, for total gameplay for the 3 weeks being just over 24 hours. Remembering again, my goal was to PK each day for as many continuous days. In total, partaking in 250 fights, with the fight outcomes being the following: 111 kills, 77 deaths, and 62 fights ending in a player running. As well, I keep track of my fights in brackets of 100, comparing the Pk'd ratio in these brackets as a means to measure progress. And having died a lot in my previous 1000 fights, I'm really glad to be maintaining my trend of more kills than deaths. And not to mislead, being only 50 fights deep in my latest 100 fight bracket, but for the first time trending towards 2 kills per 1 death. So, am I good at free-to-play PKing? No, but I am getting better. Bringing us to the lessons learned section of the video, and I wish to attribute my recent success of maintaining more kills than deaths to this lesson. The lesson being the development of the basics. As when you initially start learning how to PK, it's rather overwhelming, as you slowly become more aware of the things you can and should do to make you better, with then the knowing versus the application and success of these lessons taking more time. Accrediting myself with a basic understanding of free-to-play PKing. And to exemplify what I mean here, let me walk you through the background thoughts in my head that are now taking place on autopilot during my fights. Make sure to be potted up as the fight starts. Double check opponent's stats to confirm their max hit. Remember, eat when your hit points falls below this. Who has momentum and will try and KO the other first? Either move out of stacking range or stay within it. When I go for my stack, delay the melee hit. If my opponent does not die, how much are they healing? Likely just 14 from a swordfish, so in future attempts, if I do not KO them again, add 14 to remaining health. Does my range experience drop, then put them back into KO potential? If so, go for it. While remembering to keep my strength to its potted max and always bringing food closer to my KO weapon. This thought process being my basic understanding of free-to-play PKing to date, and with it, my kills now outnumbering my deaths. And I say again, am I now good at free-to-play PKing? No, I am not, but I am getting better. And I take stock in this, as learning to PK is an uphill journey and I'm making some ground. And another thing where ground is being made is this channel as a whole. The week leading up to the finishing of this video, we hit 1,000 subscribers. And for anyone who knows the background of YouTube, that is a milestone number. Much appreciation if you are one of those subscribers. And if so, keep your eye out for a community post that's going to foreshadow something special I plan to create. Also, a shout out here to Tripod, someone who's been following the series and wanted to run some fights. Now, I'm up for this if you want to do so to gauge yourself, and I have done so with others in the past, doing decently at times and equally getting worked over. The man, though, wanted to support and help fund the pay-to-play peer that I'm working on. However, though, as someone who wants to make PKing more accessible to others, I'm keeping the making of my peers from scratch so that anyone can replicate. Cheers, though, for the Constellation Fashionscape. It will be worn and my sign to others after I progress from better to good. And if you are this far into the video and have not yet, subscribe. You likely have an interest in learning about PKing, with more of that content to come. So with that being said, I will see you next time.